When a reader or a critique group partner says they feel distant from your story, it is rarely a good thing. So today I want to talk about how to control distance in creative writing. Distance often means a lack of connection to your plot, characters, or setting. Distance is created by things like too much summary, a lack of tension, or the wrong point of view. All of these are aspects of writing within your control as the author. This is Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. Let's start with controlling distance through scenes. There are many reasons too much summary can be a detriment to your writing. One of those is distance. When you use summary, you are reporting more than showing. This means you are leaving out details. Details can be the difference between a reader experiencing your story and just being told about it. Readers want that experience. They want to taste that decadent chocolate cake. They want to feel the hot sand beneath their toes. They want to feel their heart pound as the monster is creeping under the bed. Readers read to experience another person's life, to experience another story. Summary creates too much distance, so they can't experience the story in this way. So, when you are trying to control the distance your reader is feeling, pay attention to how often you're using summary and how often you're using scenes. More often than not, the scene is the better choice, especially when it comes to moments that really impact your story, your plot, or your characters. The moments where a character is changing or coming to a realization, or the moment when some important plot point or bit of information is revealed, are ones that your readers really want to experience instead of have summarized for them. But not every moment needs to be close and in scene. Sometimes you want to create a little bit of distance. If you're communicating a traumatic event, maybe you want that distance to protect yourself as the writer and the reader and your characters. For example, sometimes when people see something really traumatic, their brains interpret it as something other than it is, as a way of protecting them. If you see a car crash with body parts, maybe your character doesn't see body parts. Maybe they see bowling pins. So you're going to change the way they're experiencing that event to make it more authentic. And so the reader can experience that true traumatic turmoil. Other times, maybe the moment just isn't that important, and they need to know the information, but they don't need to see it in scene. In that case, a reader might prefer that in summary instead of in scene. Or maybe you want to summarize the beginning of a scene so you can switch to that in-scene moment and leave more of an impact by having that switch. So, summary and scene are things that you can use to control distance. Sometimes you want to be a little distant. More often than not, you want to be close. Next, I want to share how point of view and perspective impact distance. Which point of view you choose to use is going to have one of the greatest impacts on how distant your reader feels from your characters and the story as a whole. Omniscient and distant third person are distant. They don't show a lot of character thoughts or inner emotions. For some stories, this is ideal. For others, it isn't. First person and third person close show a lot of inner character thoughts and emotions. They're all about getting inside that character's head and showing the character change. Sometimes this is what you want, sometimes it's not. If you're writing a story that's all about action, you have lots of fight scenes, you have lots of explosions, or maybe it's a detective solving a case and they're running around trying to prevent bad things from happening. Their inner life might not matter that much, so maybe you don't need something like first or third person close. Maybe a more distant point of view is better for this story, so you're going to choose omniscient or distant third. On the other hand, maybe you're telling the story about a character changing. It's all about internal conflict. Well, in order for the reader to experience that internal conflict, you need to show it in scene through the character's thoughts and emotions. This means first person or third person close might be a better choice. So think about your main conflicts. the main obstacles and stakes of your story, to decide which point of view is going to be the best choice for communicating what you're trying to communicate. Another important aspect of point of view is who your point of view character is. If you're using anything other than Omniscient, you have a main point of view character, and you're probably only going to see that character's internal thoughts and emotions. So you want to pick the character who is being affected by the events of your story the most. You don't want to pick that minor character who just watches the car crash. You want to pick the character in the car crash. That way your reader can experience the car crash itself instead of just witnessing something. When you choose a character who is not the one being affected by the events, you create a lot of distance between the character and those events, and between the reader and those events. More often than not, you want to choose the character who's being affected by the events. You want to pull the reader in close so they can experience the story for themselves. So don't just pay attention to which point of view you're using, also pay attention to which character's point of view you are filtering your story through. Let's move on to how lack of tension leads to distance. When your story lacks tension, it doesn't feel immediate. It can feel like it's happening somewhere else to some other character in some other time. This creates a lot of distance between your reader and the story. This distance is often a problem. So you don't want to lack tension in each scene. You want there to be something at stake and an obstacle in the way of the character in every scene. But that doesn't always have to be an extreme obstacle or an extreme stake. Sometimes it can be the tension created by meeting someone you think is cute for the first time, or by telling a little white lie. There are different kinds of tension, and they don't all have to be because of these big stakes, such as life or death. So choose an obstacle or a stake that fits the scene and is going to create tension in that moment. Also know that certain stakes and obstacles are too far away to create tension in a specific scene. For example, in one of my modern day fairy tales, one of the characters has a disease that's probably going to kill him within the next 10 years. Probably dying within the next 10 years is way too far away to be a good stake to create tension in the first scene. So instead, in the first scene, I threaten to take away his passion, the thing that he cares about most in the world, the thing that he lives for. That stake is immediate, so it's going to create tension in that first scene. I can still have the disease kill him in 10 years. I just need to have more immediate stakes along the way. Sometimes having a big stake or a big obstacle like that is a great driver for the overall plot of your story, but it's not going to be enough for each individual scene, especially in the beginning. So you still want to have that big stake or that big obstacle, you just need smaller ones to lead up to it. Tension is one thing you need in almost every scene to help pull your reader in closer and to help move your story along. I want to leave you with why an editor recommends writers pay attention to distance. When you have too much distance, your readers are going to lose interest in your story. When they lose interest, they're probably going to move on to something else. You don't want this to happen. This is why you want to make sure you're controlling that distance. Most of the time, you want them to feel close to your characters, your plot, and your story. Sometimes you want to create a little bit of distance for whatever effect you're going for. So remember, when you're looking at ways to control distance, pay attention to how much scene you're using and how much summary you're using. Also make sure you've picked the best point of view character and the best point of view to tell your story. Then look at tension. Make sure you have tension in every scene. And pay attention to how these choices affect one another. When you choose a character to tell your story who's more of an observer than someone being directly impacted by the events, you're going to have more summary than scene, because they're not experiencing things the same way that main character is. So you're going to have two things creating distance in your story instead of just the one. Pay attention to this so you can counteract it when you need to. Same thing goes for summary and tension. When you're writing summary, you probably don't have much tension there. So that summary is going to create lack of tension. Both of these are going to work together to create even more distance between your reader and your story. So pay attention to this. Make sure you're finding ways to slip in tension even if it is a summary. A good critique group partner will tell you when your story feels too distant. If this happens, look at these 3 aspects of your story to see how you can better control the distance to make your readers feel closer when you want them to, and to push them away a little bit when you don't want them to feel close. As the author, distance is entirely within your control. So how have you overcome distance in your pieces? Share your solutions in the comments below. And for more videos on distance, point of view, and other aspects of writing, subscribe to Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers, because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. To find out more about me, go to www.ignitedinkwriting.com. There you will also find a point of view comparison chart that will help you better understand the relationship between distance and point of view. And now it's your turn to use scenes, summary, tension, and point of view to control the distance of your story and ignite your ink.